Welcome, Malaysia Low Carbon Cities Conference 2021, MyL3C 2021. On behalf of Green Technology Application for the Development of Low Carbon Cities, GTALCC, we are grateful to all our valued partners. The Ministry of Environment and Water, KASA, United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, key decision makers from the city, state, and national government, as well as from the private sector and civil societies, for your unwavering support and for taking time off from your busy schedules to be with us here today. I'm Tamina Kauschi, and I will be your MC taking you through today's proceedings. On behalf of GTALCC, once again, we hope MyL3C 2021 unveils great insight and strategies towards accelerating Malaysia's low carbon cities agenda. Before we proceed any further, ladies and gentlemen, I'd firstly like to invite Sheikh Muhammad Fakhruddin bin Haji Sufyan Shuri for the Doa recital.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, Tuhan yang menguasai langit dan bumi, hanya kepadamu sahaja kami panjangkan kesyukuran atas segala rahmat dan berkat-Mu. Dengan taufik, inayah dan izin-Mu, kami memanjatkan rasa syukur kepadamu kerana dapat sama-sama berhimpun untuk menyempurnakan persidangan Bandar Rendah Karbon Malaysia MyL3C pada hari ini. Kami memohon kepadamu juga, ya Allah, semoga persidangan ini mendapat keberkatan dari-Mu, berjalan lancar dan mudah-mudahan mendapat keredaan dan rahmat-Mu. Ya Allah, ya Zal Jalali wal Ikram, limpahkanlah rahmat dan ihsan kepada kami dalam menjalani kehidupan yang penuh dengan tugasan dan kewajipan. Kurniakanlah kepada kami nikmat kesejahteraan dan keselamatan, kesihatan dan kesempurnaan, agar dapat kami berusaha menuju ke arah kelestarian dan kemakmuran. Hindarkanlah kami daripada sesuatu yang menjejaskan kesejahteraan dan perpaduan kami. Kepadamu jua, ya Allah, kami pohonkan keselamatan dan kesejahteraan kami, para pemimpin kami, negara kami dari segala bahaya bencana. Tanamkanlah di hati kami sifat sabar dan tabah dalam menghadapi ujian dan dugaan. Ya Allah, terimalah segala kerja dan hikmat bakti kami dengan sempurna dan dikira sebagai amal ibadah kepadamu jua. Allahumma inni a'udzubika minal barasi wal junun wal juzam wa min sayyi'il asqam. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Blessing our event with the Doa. Ladies and gentlemen, now the moment we've been waiting for is here. Without further ado, let's now welcome Mr. Niloy Banerjee, UNDP resident representative for Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei Darussalam, to deliver the welcoming address for MyL3C 2021. Mr. Banerjee, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Tamina. And welcome everybody to the Malaysia Low Carbon Cities Conference. I hope you're looking forward to this day as much as I am. This has been long in the making, and we have had to postpone it frequently because of the circumstances we are all in. But here we are, the day is finally here, and I'm very, very happy to warmly welcome you all. Let me just say a few special words of welcome to our speakers and VIPs. Yang Berhormat Dato Sri Tuan Ibrahim bin Tuan Man, Minister of Environment and Water. Dato Maimuna Muhammad Sharif, Executive Director of UN Habitat. Yang Berhormat Senator Dato Dr. Ahmad Masizal bin Muhammad, Deputy Minister of Environment and Water. Yang Berbahagia Dato Sri Engineer Dr. Zaini Ujang, Secretary General of the Ministry of Environment and Water. Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Dr. Jamila Mahmood, Special Advisor to the Prime Minister of Malaysia on Public Health. Yang Berbahagia Dato Mary Wong, Deputy Secretary General, Ministry of Housing and Local Government, KPKT. Yang Berbahagia Datin Sri Sunita Rajkumar, founder of Climate Governance Initiative for Malaysia. Secretary Generals of Ministries, Secretaries of State Governments, Mayors and Young Dipertua of local authorities, my UN colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning again. We are coming together, the Ministry of Environment Ministry of Environment and Water and UNDP to put together this conference for you. It's a day-long conference, and we have a series of interesting panels and speakers going on stream just after me. So I'll try to keep mine short. This conference is put together under the aegis of a project called the Green Technology Application for the Development of Low Carbon Cities. It's a flagship project of the Ministry of Environment and Water, and UNDP supports it with design and capacity development and technical expertise support. Two things form the basis of what we are going to talk about today. One, 77% of Malaysia is living in. That's one point that we need to remember. Overall, globally, about 55% of the world's population lives in cities. And finally, most of our greenhouse gases, around 70% of global greenhouse gases, are emitted from cities. So that, if you take those three data points, then you can see cities, what our Secretary General Antonio Gutierrez says, that cities are where the battle against climate change will be won or lost. So that's the sort of the framing issue here, colleagues. And one more time, Malaysia is rapidly urbanizing, and therefore we are almost at 77-78% of the population in urban areas now. So we need to manage the greening of our cities, not only with speed and efficiency, but also with great effectiveness. And I'm quite sure that with the leadership that we have and the ministry leading the charge, we are well on our way there. But yeah, we cannot let our vigil down. Let me throw out maybe one more data point before I talk more specifically about cities. We have the most accurate data until 2016, and on average CO2 emission per capita by country. And globally, we are putting out about 4.63 metric tons per capita. And in gross terms, we are putting out all greenhouse gases combined, most of which is CO2, obviously. We are putting out about 52 to 53 billion metric tons a year. That's a lot to clean up and get to net zero. Excellencies, colleagues, and friends. So we all have to put our shoulder to the task here. Malaysia produces about 8.09 metric tons of CO2 per capita, per head. Now, that makes Malaysia the 33rd largest emitting country in the world. Now, that's quite a bit, colleagues. That's quite a bit for a country with a relatively small population. We are quite high on the per capita rankings. But then let's come to what Malaysia is doing, what Malaysian cities are doing, what local governments are doing. So many cities in Malaysia have already set up a low carbon vision. Some have developed a low carbon action plan. And greenhouse gas inventories are being mapped in many of them. So action is happening. In our own city where some of us live, Kuala Lumpur, the DBKL has launched the Kuala Lumpur Low Carbon Society Blueprint, It's a blueprint that was set up in 2016, looking ahead to 2030. And we are seeing some results there. We are seeing that since the blueprint was set up, the city's carbon emissions have actually fallen and quite significantly, 54%. So it can be done in an otherwise heavily heavily populated city with a lot of industrial, commercial, and vehicular activity going around. That's not a bad achievement, colleagues. So the overall DBKL blueprint for KL City is the target is 70%. So I feel quite confident that we will not only reach that, we will also be exceeding that. DBKL has also launched a strategic climate action plan to be emission neutral by 2015. In total, what we are also seeing across the countries, local authorities are also jumping into the game, and that's very, very encouraging, because I hope to conclude with a few messages, but this one would be one: the role of local authorities. And now about 64 local authorities across the country are part of the Low Carbon City Framework Program, which the ministry has launched since it's been ongoing since 2011, which the driving motive behind which is to encourage strategies and actions to reduce carbon emissions at the lower level. So again, much happening here across the country, and we'll hear in the course of the day even more in depth. The spotlight will be shined on some of these in a deeper fashion. Let me come to then what UNDP is doing overall in the climate change agenda, but also in the city space. Our flagship initiative really is to work with the national governments on what was, if you remember, what was agreed in the Paris Climate Treaty, which is that each country voluntarily announces a nationally determined contribution, which is, its own carbon reduction targets. I think country after country have jumped in. And now we have about 118 countries that UNDP is supporting to help develop the nationally determined contributions to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And we do it through a range of pathways, working at the political and social level, socializing the idea, work to review and align targets, measures, policies, bring in new actors into the greenhouse gas conversation. Of course, do the mathematics, the costing, and the investment opportunities. And finally, also we monitor and make a case and showcase those that have done well, and also point out areas for improvement. So with our own climate promise work in Malaysia, we are actually working with the ministry again, with the Ministry of Environment and Water, to set up an ambitious nationally determined contribution for Malaysia. We are also working on the Low Carbon City Master Plan, which is, you will hear the launch in just a little bit, so I won't give away too much. But the Green Cities project, the green technology for low carbon cities, that's the sponsor of this workshop, if you like, this conference, if you like, is this has worked to provide the framework to operationalize the national climate goals that are contained in the nationally determined contribution for Malaysia into specific actions. The master plan will consolidate and streamline all national policies so that they all come together. There is some policy coherence, and then look at the implementation part of it as well. Local governments have joined in, and in this particular project, we have some local governments who I'm going to name showing exemplary leadership. So the implementing cities for the green technology for low carbon cities are Putrajaya, Petaling Cyberjaya, Hang Tuah Jaya, and the Iskandar Malaysia region, the sub-region of the country. They are making efforts to focus on integrated planning for climate action, capacity building, awareness, and proof of concept investments, to show that it works, what doesn't, but more importantly, what works, and therefore keep the momentum. And we calculate that this initiative has so far contributed to reducing about 350,000 tons of CO2. I'd like to say thank you to these city council for partnering with UNDP, but also to congratulate you on your achievement. We are not merely staying limited to the city level. We are working with state governments, state and federal governments across other ministries as well. Namely, we are working with the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources. And at the local level, we are working with the states of Kedah, Pahang, Perak, Johor, and of course, Sabah and Sarawak, which are areas of deep interest to UNDP's programs. And the thrust on this through our biodiversity program is really to maintain the 50% forest cover target that we've set ourselves, and of course to keep Malaysia's status as a mega biodiverse country. So, coming out of this background, and currently with, of course, the whole pandemic situation raging around us, UNDP is very, very committed to a recovery agenda that's green, and so the financing part of this recovery agenda is very critical in driving towards green. And I must say I have to congratulate and thank the Ministry of Finance of Malaysia, which is now working with us quite closely on two forward-looking initiatives announced recently. Both were announced by the Ministry of Finance: the ecological fiscal transfers and the integrated national financing framework projects. I won't go into details, colleagues. This is not the topic of discussion today, but let me just quickly start to wind down by saying, we have opportunities. We have a real opportunity here. The global momentum is building. City-to-city knowledge exchange is not only thriving, but the climate agenda is coming through quite strongly in this knowledge exchange component. The global covenant of mayors for climate change and energy, or GCOM as it's called, the local governments for sustainability, ICLE, as many of you know, the C40 cities climate leadership group. These are all groups that have come together to build a network of committed local governments and cities that are literally creating the critical mass that will take us over the hump, I believe, in this journey that we are all on. Urban areas such as Putrajaya, KL, Kuala Lumpur, Iskandar, Malaysia, Sabrang Perai, and Melaka have all jumped in behind these networks. And so Malaysia is fully participating in these global alliances and networks. And really, the idea of these networks is to support the champions, the local champions in each setting, to get on with their work, provide some knowledge exchange facility, peer learning, and look at issues like, what capacities can we help mutually build with one another. So one good opportunity there. The second is UNDP has a network called the City-to-City Network. You can access it. We'll at some point put up the link for initiative, where you can actually join and access the resources. The idea here is to provide leadership on areas such as digital transformation of cities, energy and climate change, resilience, governance, support to the informal economy, and municipal financing for development. Obviously, all of this has a knock-on on the greening agenda. And finally, our donors and backers, UNDP's donors and backers, are also coming into this, and most of all, the Global Environment Facility, which has launched the Sustainable Cities Impact Program, which, if there is interest, UNDP can help your cities or to get into that network and derive the benefits that are given out of the network. So to conclude, colleagues, delivering a green recovery to the COVID-19 crisis, creating resilient and equitable economies that serve the people, cutting greenhouse gas emissions to limit global warming and to meet the 1.5 Celsius Paris Agreement target. These are all interdependent goals, and we have to approach this kind of comprehensively and not in silos. The scientific understanding of climate change is getting quite sophisticated, and it's important that we help bring this science down to the city level, bring it down to urban development policy, urban planning, as well as taking very concrete actions to make the cities greener, while making it also more inclusive. As you know, we can't have pockets of very well manicured, curated green cities sitting side by side with not so green, not so inclusive, not so well curated parts of the city. And this is a big problem across Asia, as you know, more in other countries than in Malaysia, but the problem exists here too. The good news is we are beginning to see city planners and city officials are getting big time into this. They are now taking this agenda and they're owning this agenda and running with it. So maybe 3 key points to finally finish off, colleagues. One is that first, climate change governance has to be mainstreamed across ministries. It's not just the responsibility of the Ministry of Environment and Water. Yes, they are the champion and they're driving the agenda, but it has to be owned more across, in a more cross-cutting way. But it's not just the horizontal integration, it's the vertical integration also, from federal to state. We have to local. We have to own the agenda across levels. And most importantly, when we do this cross-cutting as well as vertical integration, to make sure that the policy coherence is seamless, that it doesn't happen that there's mutually contradictory signals or incentives or policies being put in place. And that's the point of the whole coordination agenda. Second, local government and cities will play a key role in the Paris Agreement. You've heard me say that throughout the last few minutes. But we need their active participation in the formulation and implementation of the national climate change agenda, mitigation and adaptation agendas. So to the authorities who are present today and listening in, I take this opportunity as an open call to welcome you to reach us and have a conversation about how UNDP can support your climate change agenda and your adaptation of the SDGs, your aspirations towards the SDGs. Very happy to dialogue. We already have a program that does it, but we want to invite more of you to come in. And finally, my last message, Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, is the need for incentives and innovative financing mechanisms that directly support cities' low carbon and climate resilient ambitions. and which also accelerate the momentum that's currently already building up towards climate action plans at the city level. So I would like to finish here, and I'd once more like to warmly thank the Ministry of Environment and Water, the Sustainable Energy Development Authority, SEDA, our long-term partner, and of course the GTALCC project team for their role in this conference. Thank you for all the hard work. Thank you to the organizers, the logistics managers, and I really want to wish you a fruitful conference. And I'll be listening in all day with great interest and enthusiasm. Thank you very much. Terima kasih. Over to you, Temina.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee, for that warm and broadly insightful welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, let's now take a look at the GTALCC introductory video, which sheds light on how the GTALCC initiative came to be in support of low-carbon cities in Malaysia.
This is Malaysia, one of the most rapidly expanding and urbanizing countries in Southeast Asia. With approximately 77% of the population currently residing in urban areas, the need for transportation and energy consumption grow as a result. The energy needs for transportation and electricity are mainly powered by fossil fuel and coal. It's not surprising that the greenhouse gas emissions in Malaysia are higher than other countries at similar stages of development. The sources of emissions mainly derive from the urbanization of the country, with the energy sector being the key contributor at 79%, the waste sector at 8.6%, and the industrial processes sector at 8.6%. Taking learnings from other successful low-carbon cities like Stockholm and Copenhagen, the Malaysian government recognized that the country must decouple its economic growth and greenhouse gas emissions or risk unsustainable development in the long run. GTALCC is a 5-year project to facilitate the implementation of low-carbon initiatives and to showcase a clear and integrated approach to low-carbon development in Malaysia. As a project, GTALCC works closely with 5 participating cities, an economic region, and industry players on a collective of low-carbon initiatives. As outlined by the Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations, the GTALCC project is set out to help Malaysia be aligned with Goal 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, Goal 13, Climate Action, and Goal 17, Partnerships for the Goals. To support the Low Carbon Cities program by removing barriers to the integrated low-carbon urban planning and development, GTALCC also collaborates with ministries, local authorities, federal and state agencies, NGOs, industry and solution providers on policy support, capacity building, technology mobilization, and solutions for low-carbon cities. The cumulative direct carbon dioxide emissions reductions resulting from GTALCC's technical assistance and investments by end of project target now stands at 340,573.17 ton carbon dioxide equivalent versus the end target of 346,442 ton carbon dioxide equivalent. 2 of the major milestones of GTALCC are participated in national and international events such as Asia Pacific Urban Forum 2019 and Malaysia Urban Forum 2020 to strengthen outreach. Developed the National Low Carbon Cities Master Plan, NLCCM, to mainstream low-carbon urban development in Malaysian cities. The document is among the 6 approaches outlined by the Prime Minister at the Malaysian Climate Change Action Council 2021 meeting. As a project, GTALCC is dedicated to accelerating the low carbon cities agenda in Malaysia by empowering cities with a systematic approach to achieve ambitious emission reduction targets at the city level.
Gentlemen, it is now my honor to acknowledge Yang Amat Berhormat Tan Sri Dato Haji Muhyiddin bin Haji Muhammad Yassin, Prime Minister of Malaysia. Mandated by Yang Amat Berhormat Prime Minister to deliver on his behalf the keynote address and official launch for MyL3C 2021 and the National Low Carbon Cities Master Plan, let's now welcome Yang Berhormat Dato Sri Tuan Ibrahim bin Tuan Man, Minister of Environment and Water. Yang Berhormat, over to you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Yang berusaha Encik Nilai Banerjee, UNDP Resident Representative for Malaysia, Singapore and Brunei Darussalam. Yang bahagia Datuk Seri Senior Dr. Zaini Ujang, Ketua Setiausaha Kementerian Alam Sekitar dan Air, Ketua-Ketua Setiausaha Kementerian, Setiausaha Kerajaan Negeri, Datuk Bandar dan yang dipertua pihak berkuasa tempatan, yang bahagia Tan Sri, Datuk-Datuk, Datin-Datin, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang dihormati sekalian. Sebelum memulakan ucapan pada pagi ini, izinkan saya memetik ayat daripada Al-Quran surah Al-A'raf ayat 56 sebagai peringatan daripada Allah kepada kita semua. Firman Allah Ta'ala, A'udzubillahi minasyaitanirrajim, wala tufsidu fil ardi ba'da islahiha wad'uhu khaufan wa tama'a inna rahmatallahi qaribum minal muhsinin. Maksudnya, dan janganlah kamu berbuat kerosakan di bumi sesudah Allah menyediakan segala yang membawa kebaikan padanya, dan berdoalah kepadanya dengan perasaan bimbang kalau tidak diterima oleh Allah, dan juga dengan perasaan terlalu mengharapkan supaya doa kita dimakbulkan oleh Allah. Sesungguhnya rahmat Allah itu dekat kepada orang yang memperbaiki amalannya. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan dihormati sekalian, izinkan saya membaca teks ucapan perasmian bagi pihak Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri Malaysia dan Sri Datuk Haji Muhyiddin bin Haji Muhammad Yassin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Apa khabar semua? Saya doakan saudara dan saudari sihat walafiat sentiasa. Alhamdulillah, saya merafakkan kesyukuran kehadrat Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Dengan izin dan limpah kurnia-Nya jua, kita dapat bersama-sama hadir dan bersemuka secara maya di dalam majlis persidangan Bandar Rendah Karbon Malaysia MyL3C dan seterusnya menyempurnakan pelancaran Pelan Induk Bandar Rendah Karbon Negara National Low Carbon Cities Master Plan atau NLCCM pada pagi yang mulia ini. Seperti mana semua maklum, kita kini berada di pelan pemulihan negara. Sebagai sebuah kerajaan yang bertanggungjawab dan prihatin, kita faham akan keperluan dan permintaan setiap suara kumpulan masyarakat. Keseimbangan dalam membuat keputusan, walaupun sukar, adalah amat penting dalam usaha kerajaan menangani pandemik COVID-19 ini. Saya amat berharap rakyat terus bersama-sama bersatu dalam menyebarkan mesej yang positif, mematuhi semua SOP yang ditetapkan kerana perjuangan kita menentang COVID-19 masih belum selesai. Selain daripada gelombang pandemik COVID-19, kita tidak dapat lari daripada isu berkaitan perubahan iklim. Aspek planetary health atau kesihatan bumi telah diberi penekanan yang serius oleh pihak kerajaan. Semasa mempengerusikan mesyuarat pertama Majlis Tindakan Perubahan Iklim Malaysia atau MyL3C pada April tahun ini, saya telah memberi mandat yang penuh kepada Kementerian Alam Sekitar dan Air KASA untuk menyelaras dengan semua pihak berkepentingan bagi menyediakan hala tuju negara yang jelas dalam perkara ini. Hala 7 termasuk kerangka perundangan dan resource mobilization yang berkaitan dengan perubahan iklim. Ianya amat penting kerana Malaysia tidak dapat lari daripada arus perubahan di peringkat global pada masa ini yang beri fokus kepada green recovery. Hadirin sekalian, salah satu punca perubahan iklim adalah pelepasan gas rumah kaca atau GHG di atmosfera. Hasil penemuan Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change atau IPCC menunjukkan bahawa sekiranya pelepasan gas rumah kaca berterusan dengan kadar sedia ada, dijangkakan suhu bumi akan meningkat kepada 1.5 darjah Celsius di akhir tahun 2030 hingga tahun 2052. Peningkatan suhu bumi secara tidak langsung akan menjejaskan ekosistem bumi. Ekosistem yang tidak stabil akan menyebabkan kesan-kesan negatif seperti peningkatan paras air laut, perubahan cuaca yang ekstrim, selain menjejaskan kitaran hidup haiwan dan mengancam keselamatan rantaian bekalan makanan. Di Malaysia, kita dapat lihat kadang-kala kejadian musim kemarau dan hujan yang lebih panjang dan tidak menentu berlaku tanpa mengikut musim. Ketidakstabilan ini menyebabkan terjadinya krisis bekalan air dan kejadian banjir kilat yang buruk di beberapa buah negeri. Namun kita tidak nafikan kejadian fenomena ini turut disumbang oleh aktiviti ekonomi, pembangunan infrastruktur fizikal dan sosioekonomi yang tidak mampan. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan dihormati sekalian, bandar adalah di antara penyumbang terbesar pelepasan gas rumah kaca ke atmosfera. Kesan daripada aktiviti seperti pengangkutan, perindustrian dan pembuatan, pembangunan bandar atau urbanisasi merupakan antara punca utama pelepasan yang menyumbang kepada masalah perubahan iklim global. Menurut laporan UN Habitat, kawasan bandar walaupun hanya meliputi 1% daripada muka bumi, telah menghasilkan lebih daripada 70% pelepasan GHG dan mewakili 78% daripada keseluruhan pengguna tenaga dunia. Dalam hal ini, langkah-langkah mitigasi bagi mengurangkan kadar pelepasan gas rumah kaca serta langkah-langkah adaptasi bagi mengurangkan impak perubahan iklim dan pemanasan global perlu diberi perhatian yang sewajarnya. Langkah-langkah mitigasi dan adaptasi yang telah diambil oleh kerajaan antaranya ialah yang pertama, menggalakkan penjanaan tenaga boleh baru dalam amalan kecekapan tenaga. Yang kedua, menggalakkan penggunaan kenderaan cekap tenaga, Energy Efficient Vehicle atau EEVs. Dan yang ketiga, pelaksanaan inisiatif bandar rendah karbon. Yang keempat, pelaksanaan inisiatif mobiliti rendah karbon. Yang kelima, pelaksanaan program menangani pencemaran sisa plastik sekali guna atau single use plastik di bawah Malaysian Roadmap toward Single Use Plastic 2018-2030 dan akhirnya ialah ekonomi kitaran atau circular economy. Tuan-tuan sekalian, latar itu di antara bandar-bandar di serata dunia sebagai contoh Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Tianjin, Zhejiang, Hong Kong dan Tokyo telah pun menerima pakai konsep bandar rendah karbon untuk mengurangkan impak perubahan iklim. Proses urbanisasi ini melibatkan hubungan antara manusia dengan alam sekitar di bandar. Dalam konteks pembangunan di kawasan bandar, peranan pihak berkuasa tempatan PBT amat penting dalam merancang pembangunan sosioekonomi dan infrastruktur persekitaran sesabuah bandar. Selain itu, PBT juga membantu dalam melaksanakan inisiatif pelestarian persekitaran peringkat kebangsaan dan tempatan. Sebagai entiti yang berada di peringkat pentadbiran yang paling dekat dengan rakyat, PBT perlu memainkan peranan yang penting, yang aktif dalam mendidik, menggerak dan memberi respon kepada masyarakat serta mempromosi pembangunan yang mampan dan inklusif. Penglibatan komuniti juga adalah salah satu tonggak utama yang menyokong pelaksanaan pembangunan mampan dan merealisasikan kewujudan bandar rendah karbon di seluruh negara. Saya difahamkan terdapat beberapa buah PBT yang telah melaksanakan program dan inisiatif bandar rendah karbon dan saya ucapkan tahniah di atas usaha tersebut. Di samping itu, pembudayaan gaya hidup lestari seperti penggunaan peralatan yang cekap tenaga serta amalan 3R, reduce, reuse dan recycle, membantu merealisasikan matlamat bandar rendah karbon. Tindakan dan perubahan gaya hidup kita adalah kunci utama dalam memastikan kelestarian alam sekitar negara sentiasa terpelihara. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan hadirin sekalian, proses peralihan dan transformasi bandar rendah karbon bakal memberi impak yang positif kepada kita semua dalam mengurangkan kesan perubahan iklim. Menyedari bahawa PBT di peringkat negeri dan perbandaran memerlukan sokongan padu di peringkat persekutuan dalam menjayakan agenda bandar rendah karbon. Pelbagai usaha telah dilaksanakan sejak tahun 2011 melalui pelaksanaan Rangka Kerja Bandar Rendah Karbon atau LCCF. Persidangan MyL3C ini yang julung kali diadakan dengan tema Empowering Cities Toward Low Carbon Pathway diharap akan memberi komitmen dan momentum ke arah menjayakan agenda bandar rendah karbon di negara ini insya-Allah. Di samping itu, persidangan ini merupakan wadah kepada semua pihak berkepentingan, terutamanya PBT yang terlibat dalam berkongsi ilmu dan pengalaman serta amalan terbaik dalam merealisasikan pelaksanaan bandar rendah karbon di perbandaran masing-masing kelab. Di samping itu juga, bagi memperkukuhkan lagi kerangka pelaksanaan inisiatif rendah karbon dengan lebih sistematik serta mencapai sasaran pengurangan karbon yang jelas, Pelan Induk Bandar Rendah Karbon Negara yang akan dilancarkan pada hari ini akan memberi panduan yang lengkap kepada kerajaan negeri dan PBT dalam membangunkan bandar rendah karbon di kawasan pentadbiran masing-masing. Menurut kata kerja bertajuk Accelerating Low Carbon Development in the World Cities oleh Global Commission on Economy dan Climate, analisis kepada peringkat bandar terkini berkaitan kes ekonomi bagi tindakan rendah karbon menunjukkan bahawa langkah-langkah bandar rendah karbon mewakili peluang ekonomi berjumlah USD 16.6 trilion di seluruh dunia. Berdasarkan hanya kepada penjimatan tenaga yang boleh diperolehi daripada pelaburan rendah karbon. Transformasi bandar-bandar di Malaysia kepada bandar rendah karbon akan membangunkan ekonomi hijau tempatan, mewujudkan peluang pekerjaan dan menarik minat pelabur domestik dan antarabangsa. Di antara sektor yang akan mendapat manfaat daripada usaha ini adalah sektor tenaga lestari, sektor mobiliti rendah karbon, sektor pengurusan sisa dan kitaran semula serta sektor kecekapan air. Saya amat berbangga kerana penghasilan pelan induk ini telah melibatkan pihak-pihak berkepentingan di pelbagai peringkat. Tahniah diucapkan kepada 33 buah bandar, kawasan bandar yang telah dikenal pasti dan saya yakin usaha ini akan dapat diperluaskan kepada semua PBT di seluruh negara insya-Allah. Hadirin sekalian, sebagai langkah galakan dan sokongan kepada PBT untuk melaksanakan inisiatif bandar rendah karbon berimpak tinggi, kerajaan menerusi Kementerian Alam Sekitar dan Air KASA telah menggerakkan geran pemangkin bandar rendah karbon atau ringkasnya gerak sebanyak 35 juta ringgit. Keutamaan akan diberikan kepada PBT yang sudah melaksanakan program bandar rendah karbon LCCF serta penyertaan dalam program Low Carbon Cities 2030 Challenge atau LCC 2030C di peringkat kategori zon rendah karbon. Ini adalah sokongan dan suntikan dana diberikan kepada PBT untuk memacu tindakan perubahan iklim di peringkat PBT dan akar umbi. Sehubungan dengan itu, Saya menyeru agar pihak berkepentingan, terutamanya PBT, menyambut baik usaha kerajaan dan memberikan kerjasama serta komitmen yang jitu dan berterusan kepada Kementerian Alam Sekitar dan Air dalam melaksanakan transformasi ke arah bandar rendah karbon yang dibawa melalui Pelan Induk Bandar Rendah Karbon Negara. Saya amat yakin bahawa inisiatif ke arah bandar rendah karbon di Malaysia boleh dilaksanakan dengan baik dan berkesan menggunakan pendekatan bersepadu dan sistematik. Sinergi antara kerajaan persekutuan dan kerajaan negeri perlu dipertingkatkan dalam mendukung usaha dan inisiatif PBT melalui penyaluran sumber-sumber yang tersedia sama ada daripada segi pembangunan kapasiti maupun peruntukan keuangan. Sokongan ini amat penting bagi memacu PBT ke arah pembangunan mampan dan rendah karbon di kawasan pentadbiran masing-masing yang seterusnya akan menyumbang ke arah peningkatan kualiti hidup dan kelestarian alam sekitar. Kerajaan negeri juga perlu menyelaras pelaksanaan bandar rendah karbon dan menyokong usaha yang dilaksanakan di peringkat PBT dengan menyediakan peruntukan termasuk galakan penyertaan PBT dalam program cabaran LCC 2030. Di samping itu, elemen bandar karbon wajar dipertimbangkan oleh kerajaan negeri untuk diterapkan dalam perancangan pembangunan seperti rancangan struktur negeri. Tuan-tuan sekalian, walaupun aktiviti-aktiviti dalam kawasan bandar merupakan penyumbang utama pelepasan GHG, namun bandar-bandar juga memainkan peranan penting dalam tindakan perubahan iklim menuju ke arah penghuni bandar yang sejahtera dan bandar Malaysia yang lestari. Akhir kata, saya mengucapkan tahniah kepada semua yang hadir pada hari ini. Penyertaan anda semua adalah testimoni komitmen yang akan memacu agenda bandar rendah karbon di Malaysia. Dengan lafaz Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, saya dengan sukacitanya dengan ini merasmikan persidangan bandar rendah karbon Malaysia MyL3C yang melancarkan dokumen Pelan Induk Bandar Rendah Karbon Negara NLCCM. Sekian, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera.
Terima kasih. Thank you, Yang Berhormat. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move into the official launch of MyL3C 2021 and the National Low Carbon Cities Master Plan via a series of 3 short videos, which will give us a comprehensive overview of the vision and mission for the year ahead. First up, let's now take a look at a video on the National Low Carbon Cities Master Plan so we get to know the document in depth. Next, ladies and gentlemen, let's watch a video presentation on Garak, which helps explain the grant mechanism process, plus cities which have already received this grant. And now, ladies and gentlemen, a final video showcasing the highlights of the GTALCC project, as alluded to by Mr. Banerjee in his welcoming address earlier. The 5 participating Malaysian cities, Putrajaya, Cyberjaya, Hang Tuah Jaya, Petaling Jaya, and Iskandar, Malaysia. Let's take a look at what a low-carbon city can look like on the ground.
The Low Carbon Cities agenda isn't new in Malaysia. Some cities have ventured early in their journey towards reducing GHG emissions. And the GTALCC project is working with these cities to accelerate the pace of initiatives on the ground. As the Federal Administrative Center, the city of Putrajaya has led by example and implemented a number of low-carbon initiatives, including a cycle lane network. Through the GTALCC project, the existing cycle lane network has been enhanced with the installation of dedicated bicycle ramps at 2 major bridges in the city. On top of that, a bike lane study was conducted to connect Putrajaya Central Transport Hub and Precinct 4 at the heart of the office cluster. This set a precedent for other cities to address Malaysia's rapid increase in greenhouse gas-emitting vehicles by 500% over the past 3 decades. Malaysians produce more than 33,000 tons of waste every day. To effectively reduce waste and the carbon footprint of the waste sector, GTALCC funded the Putrajaya Waste Management and Minimization Action Plan to lay out feasible approaches to reduce waste within the city. GTALCC also actively supported the Green Rose at Putrajaya program to produce a folio about growing green for primary school children, which further improved the awareness for low-carbon society towards a sustainable future through education. Located adjacent to Putrajaya lies Cyberjaya. Cyberjaya has established itself as the premier information and communications technology hub and is now known as the nucleus of MSC Malaysia. Hence, it becomes increasingly important to reduce its carbon footprint due to the integrated technological infrastructure throughout the city. Among many initiatives taken to achieve that, one of the highlights was a carbon sequestration by trees project conducted by the Sepang Municipal Council since 2017. More than 400 trees were planted within 16 acres of urban forest, each tagged with a unique QR code that provides its identification, information, and carbon absorption rate. As an effort that took the city a step closer towards a low-carbon future, this project has been awarded with the Sustainable Cities and Communities Award for the state of Selangor in conjunction with the World Town Planning Day 2020. The city also conducted its own Waste to Wealth WTW project, an initiative that converts cooking oil waste to 80s bio-based fuel, ABBF, a special compound that replaces diesel in mosquito fogging activities. Cooking oil waste is collected from food premises, residentials, schools, and the Kismat program. The waste is then processed at a cooking oil recycling plant in the Forest Research Institute Malaysia, FRIM. This initiative successfully preserved the air quality and reduced overall toxicity while performing mosquito fogging activities. A new innovation center has been completed and will soon start operating as the cooking oil recycling plant for the city. Notably, this project has proudly embraced various local and international awards for its outstanding innovation. Petaling Jaya, the satellite city of Kuala Lumpur, is home to more than 600,000 Malaysians. With the implementation of Homeowners Low Carbon and Green Initiative, the City Council offers up to 100% assessment rebate based on conservation in energy, water, waste, transportation, and biodiversity, with adoption of green technology. The local residents actively took on the initiative as part of a low-carbon society and enjoyed assessment rebates from the City Council. The City Council also pioneered a Smart Waste Solution Lab project in SS2 to address 49% of organic waste as part of the 600 tons daily waste disposal in the city. The lab has acquired 2 compost machines that process 15 tons of food waste daily into liquid fertilizer, biogas, and detergent made available to the public in the Education Center. In 2022, the City Council plans to set up another waste solution and recycling center in SS8 to achieve the ultimate goal to reduce the daily waste disposal amount by half in the near future. Traveling down south, we have Hang Tuah Jaya in the state of Malacca, one of the 5 participating cities in the GTALCC project. The City Council has received fundings from GTALCC as an online energy monitoring system that is installed in 3 notable buildings located in the low-carbon zone within the city. The system directly monitors electricity usage and facilitates the process of reporting and data collection in order to effectively manage the greenhouse gas emissions from the stationary energy sector. Moving further down south is Malaysia's first economic region, Iskandar Malaysia, where the region developed the Iskandar Malaysia Bus Rapid Transit (IMBRT) to manage the carbon footprint of transportation in the city. The region also kickstarted the Iskandar Malaysia Eco Life Challenge (MyL3C), which aimed to create awareness of low-carbon society among students, teachers, and their families as a student activity to help the city achieve its carbon reduction target by 2025. Even with the impact of the pandemic, the program has successfully adapted virtually and is conducted via Google Classroom as a continuous effort to nurture a low-carbon society, one family at a time.
Ayo sayangi alam sekitar.
These key initiatives by the cities are just the beginning for Malaysia in the journey to achieve its national goal. It spearheaded the change that Malaysia needs and inspired even more initiatives to come. contributing towards GTALCC's greenhouse gas emissions reductions objective of approximately 346,000 ton carbon dioxide equivalent at the end of project period in 2021. These cities are low carbon leaders and role models for other Malaysian cities, with replicable initiatives to accelerate the low carbon agenda on the pathway to achieve net zero carbon emissions for the nation in the near future.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Before moving on, I'd like to highlight to all our attendees, for those who didn't manage to watch the preceding videos, not to worry. There will be a full recording made available. This recording will be accessible from Friday, 16th of July onwards via the same unique login link that you are here with us now through for the next 2 months as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have the pleasure of introducing Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Maimunah binti Muhammad Sharif of Malaysia, Executive Director of the United Nations Human Settlements Program, or UN Habitat. She is also the first Asian woman ever to hold this position. Prior to this appointment, Yang Berbahagia was the mayor of the City Council of Penang Island in Malaysia. As mayor, she also led the Municipal Council of Seberang Perai to achieve its vision of a cleaner, greener, safer, and healthier place to work, live, invest, and play. She is a champion of gender-responsive participatory budgeting and planning. She integrates gender perspectives into the entire governance process. During her tenure, the Municipal Council of Seberang Perai was also the first local authority in Malaysia to implement and achieve 6 quality-based management ISO certifications. Yang Berbahagia, the stage is yours.
Yang amat berhormat Tan Sri Datuk Haji Muhyiddin Haji Mohamad Yassin, Prime Minister of Malaysia. Yang berhormat Datuk Sri Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Man, Minister of Environment and Water. Colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Warm greetings from UN Habitat, Nairobi, Kenya. Please allow me to begin by thanking the Government of Malaysia for this invitation to present my remarks at this conference officiated by His Excellency Yang Amat Berhormat Tan Sri Datuk Haji Muhyiddin Haji Mohamad Yassin, the Prime Minister of Malaysia. In these challenging circumstances, the Government of Malaysia's determinations on tackling the twin Cs of COVID-19 and climate change opens the way towards a clean, green, and inclusive recovery. I further commend the government for its sustainability agenda in the 2021 budget that aims to balance economic growth and people's well-being. Let me also congratulate the organizers of the Malaysia Low Carbon Cities Conference 2021. This includes the Ministry of Environment and Water, or KASA, under the leadership of the Yang Berhormat Datuk Sri Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Man, and the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, whom we share a mutual commitment to climate action globally. My personal thanks to UNDP Resident Representative, Mr. Niloy Banerjee, for extending this invitation to UN Habitat to address these esteemed gatherings of experts and policymakers. Let me express my solidarity with the people of Malaysia, my fellow citizens, as they face the unprecedented impacts and immense challenges in tackling the COVID-19 pandemic. You are not alone. In the first months of the pandemic, UN Habitat has estimated that over 1,430 cities in 210 countries had been affected, and over 95% of the total cases were in urban areas. The challenges faced in Malaysia is particularly difficult, as more than 75% of its total population are living in urban areas. Over the past 1.5 years, we have learned that few countries were adequately prepared to combat the pandemic. Indeed, cities and mukims serving as economic centers were often the first places to be exposed. Our everyday public transport hubs, both international and domestic, became catalysts for the spread of COVID-19. The poor, the elderly, disabled, and those with underlying conditions, especially living in slums and informal settlements, were disproportionately affected, increasing vulnerabilities. In fact, many of the risks of urban residents before and after the virus were anticipated in the UN Habitat Strategic Plan 2020 to 2023. This includes inadequate housing, poor accessibility and connectivity, lack of access to clean water, sanitation, and waste management. If anything, COVID-19 vividly illustrates inequalities and exclusion in our cities that member states have committed to resolving in the new urban agenda. However, in battling COVID-19 and building a new normal, we must not forget that the greatest threat to humanity is climate change. Unlike the virus that had caught us unaware, we have every opportunity, every scientific proof, and every foreshadowing of what is to come to address climate impacts. I thank KASA and the Ministry for taking the lead. I thank the Prime Minister for his leadership, as we need a whole of government approach to deal with climate change. Yang Amat Berhormat Prime Minister, what we do not have is time. Local climate action plans with concrete and verifiable targets are needed to move from small-scale interventions to citywide action that can be replicated nationally and internationally. This must be anchored in a more ambitious, nationally determined contributions, or NDCs. As highlighted in the UN Habitat Cities and Pandemic Report, we can do this by 3 key actions. 1. Rethinking the form and function of the city and directing investment in areas which form urban weak spots. Second, addressing systemic poverty and inequalities in cities. This will require a new social contract grounded on human rights and institutional reforms to empower cities to implement redistributive measures. Third, harnessing the power of densities, economies of scale, and connectivity must continue to support the rapid deployment of innovative low-carbon solutions. As it has been the case in Malaysia, rebuilding a new normal urban economy through programs such as Prihatin, Kita Prihatin, Prihatin SMEs, Penjana, Permai and Pemerkasa, vulnerable individuals and sectors such as B40 category, small businesses and industries must be equipped with knowledge, tools, and resources to be prepared and absorb some degree of shocks and stresses associated with climate change. Finally, urban legislation and governance arrangements must be continuously clarified to effectively deliver welfare services to the last mile and those most in need. Today's conference comes at a critical time, upon which Malaysia prepares to commit to to its 2021 to 2030 nationally determined contributions to reduce its greenhouse gas CSG emissions intensity of GDP by 45% relative to 2005, and as a nation and as the country prepares for the formulation of the 12th Malaysia Plan 2021 to 2025 guiding development as a whole. Let me appeal to be bold and ambitious in your collective vision. The future of Malaysia depends on it, and I look forward to hearing the outcomes of your deliberations and transformative actions, which I can assure you on behalf of UN Habitat, we stand ready and remain fully committed to supporting. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia, for that resounding message. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now be taking a short break between proceedings till 10:30 a.m. A couple of housekeeping announcements before, and also do please feel free to enjoy your morning coffee before joining us back for a full program, which will begin with the exciting first plenary sessions and key sharing sessions. Plenary session 1, FYI, is on building a low-carbon, resilient recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. Kindly note, ladies and gentlemen, as with before, you will be able to log into the plenary session 1 room after leaving this room after 10:30 a.m. only. Please refresh your page to reset should you encounter any difficulty at all. Thank you, and see you in the plenary session room 10:30 a.m. onwards. Till then.
50 feet, why don't you turn around and